Speaking with District 5 County Commission candidates Dottie, Acosta, and Henry Dean today. Tony, would you like to start the questions out?
So, good afternoon. Thank you both for being here. We'd like to invite you both to take just a few minutes to introduce yourselves and tell us why you are running for the County Commission District 5 seat. We'll start with ladies first.
Please, please.
I'm Dottie Acosta, and I am a candidate for District 5 County Commissioner. I've been in St. Johns County since 1974. I left for just a little while my husband was in the U.S. Army, came back in '89. The main reason that I chose to become a candidate for St. Johns County is never been in politics before, worked for the citizens of St. Johns County for 28 years in the St. Johns County Property Appraiser's Office. But I have 4 children, I have 13 grandchildren, and a great-grandchild that lives in this county. And I see so much change over the past years, so much growth in this county, that it's not the county, of course, that it was, even 10 years ago. And I think it's too much growth. Growth is inevitable, and I know that, but we need to do something with controlled growth and protect our county, protect our waterways, protect our environment. And I want to be the person that's the voice of the citizens of St. Johns County and listen to what they have to say and walk in the streets, walk in the neighborhoods. The first thing out of most people's mouth is controlled growth. So that's what I want to do. I want to help control the growth in St. Johns County.
First of all, I want to compliment Dottie Acosta for running a very positive campaign. I've enjoyed getting to know Dottie, and I think we both share the same values. I think you'll learn this afternoon. But I spent 30 years in state government. Part of that was as the attorney for the State Department of Natural Resources back in the early 80s. One of my last acquisitions that I handled when I was at DNR was the acquisition of the Guano River Preserve in 1984, January of 1984. Shortly thereafter, that spring, I was asked to serve as the executive director of the St. Johns River Water Management District. And so when my wife and I moved from Tallahassee to the St. Johns River Water Management District, we chose to purchase a home on Anastasia Island at Crescent Beach in 1984, and I commuted for 17 years, 206 to 207 to Highway 100 through Hastings, the potato and cabbage area. And so I served in that role for 17 years. And as part of that, that included the restoration of the headwaters of the St. Johns River, known as the Upper Basin Project. It also included the development of the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. It also involved the restoration of Lake Apopka. It also involved the development of the restoration plan for the lower basin of the St. Johns River. Since the river flows north, this area is known as the lower basin, that is from Lake George to Mayport. In that role, I was able to, having been a resident of St. Johns County, Anastasia Island, learn about the county. I fell in love with the county. I planned on staying here forever. And in 2001, Governor Jeb Bush called me and asked me to transfer to the South Florida Water Management District to jumpstart the Everglades restoration. Congress had just passed what was known as the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan. At the time, an $8 billion restoration for the Everglades, which was the largest in the world at that time in the way of a restoration effort. And I agreed to do that, but only for 4 years, because I would then finish my 30 years, as Dottie has done with the property appraiser. I finished my 30 years with state government. And so I basically told the governor I'd do it for 4 years. So I did that. My wife and I moved down to Wellington outside West Palm Beach, and I served as the director of the South Florida Water Management District. And I initiated a program at the governor's direction to accelerate Everglades restoration. And in fact, we came up with the term accelerate with an 8 on the end, because it was 8 projects that were going to be about $3 billion of the $8 billion to build reservoirs and stormwater treatment areas. So when I retired from government in 2005, there was no doubt in our mind, my wife and I, where we were going to go, and that was back to our little house on Anastasia Island on Riverview Drive, which I've always considered a slice of heaven, St. Johns County. So for the last 10 years, I have been doing private consulting work, water resource consulting, and I've been doing consulting work for cities, counties, including St. Johns County, ranchers, farmers, land developers, home builders, small business, large business. And so having been back here since 2005, I share Dottie's feelings and thoughts that I think that we have created a problem for all of us, all of the residents in this county, where we've had rapid growth without adequate attention to infrastructure, which I'll talk about later. Because I have a lot of my personal blood, sweat, and tears, if you will, invested in St. Johns County. I was involved in the acquisition of not only the Guano River Preserve, but 12 Mile Swamp, Julington-Durbin Peninsula, Deep Creek, Moses Creek, Matanzas State Forest, and just south of us, the Princess Place. That's roughly 60,000 acres of conservation lands that I played a small role along with my staff in acquiring. So I want to maintain the beauty, I want to maintain the natural resources, and I want to maintain a sensible growth approach so that growth pays for itself and there is concurrency, so that we don't continue to have roads too crowded, inadequate facilities, and trying to catch up with infrastructure. And so I was approached this spring by several individuals, some from the development community, some from the environmental community, all suggesting that I had the background, experience, and knowledge to help guide the county as a county commissioner, working with the other four, as we go forward to somewhat of an uncertain future given our infrastructure backlog and the need to get a handle on growth. And so I jumped in the race in early March, and here I am.
Okay. Let me, I'm not going to pose this as a question, it's more a statement. I want you to tell me if you all agree with it. There are a growing number of people who believe that our growth, the overreaching growth we have now isn't due to a bad comp plan or bad land use regulations. The problem is being the exceptions that the county commission is giving the developers after they go in wide open, knowing what they bought, knowing what they could do on the land, and in probably 80-90% of the cases asking for sometimes 2 and 3 times the density or things that they did not have. Do you, Dottie, first, do you agree with that? And then Henry, do you agree with that?
I think that's part of the problem. They go in and they present their developments, and their developments are approved, and then 6 months later or so many months later they go back in and ask for variance, and the variance includes putting twice as many houses on an acre lot or whatever, and that variance is approved. So, and then they don't have to pay extra, or they do pay extra, but not enough to cover the number of cars that are going on the roads or whatever. So we're not being compensated correctly for that. So I think that's a big problem. They don't have to approve those variances. They don't have to give them that extra. So they are approving all of those that go through. So I don't think that should happen. I disagree with them approving those variances.
Jim, I agree with your statement. I think what has gone on over the last 5, 10, 15 years needs a course adjustment. Mm-hmm. And the course adjustment, and again, Dottie and I both agree, I think, that my position is pretty simple. I think that new growth must pay for itself.
Yes,
I think
agree.
That any new growth needs to be consistent with the current county comprehensive plan. And land use regulations. And I would be very reluctant to vote for any variance to the land use regulations and to the comprehensive plan. I mean, there is a reason that we have a comprehensive plan for development. There is a reason we have land use regulations, and as you said, landowners, developers, home builders, they come in, or should come in, with open eyes. They can read the land use regulations, they can read the comp plan, and they need to propose a development that comports with that and is consistent with that. And I would be very reluctant. I'm not going to sit here today and promise that I would never vote yes on a variance, because there may be a certain hardship that is developed or something that we didn't know about at the time. But consistently, I will tell you, I would go in with my eyes open, looking to not approve any variance that would increase density. And on this note, let me add, I also think that we need a system to look at new development and almost do what, in my world of government, working with the Corps of Engineers over the years and state agencies, I'll use the term cost-benefit analysis.
Yes.
I think there needs to be a pre-approval cost-benefit analysis to estimate, one, what the tax revenue, the ad valorem tax revenue will be for that particular development. Let's say it's a 500-unit residential development. There needs to be an analysis of what the potential tax revenue is over time, along with any impact fees, and then we need to contrast that with what is going to be the cost of infrastructure improvements: roads, schools, police, fire, water, wastewater, and any other infrastructure that I've missed, and see if that, in fact, new growth is going to be self-sustaining. Because what I don't want to happen is what has happened in the last 15 years, and that is a good portion of new growth costs have been placed on existing residents, homeowners, small business, and let me add, renters, because the cost of the tax cost is passed on from the apartment owner to the renter, and the renter is in the worst position to be able to take on new costs because they usually are in the mid to lower level income range, and if they're paying $800 a month for rent, it's hard for them to adjust their budget to $850 or $875 to incorporate a new tax passed on by the property owner, because this county has had to raise taxes on us, the homeowners and renters, to pay for new growth that wasn't clearly analyzed and taken into account, where I think new growth should pay for itself.
Can I add something to what he just said? I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but concurrency is not mandated by the state. Concurrency is at the will of the counties. And when somebody pays for concurrency and the fees for the impact fees, the person is given credit, that the amount that they pay concurrency, they're given credit on their impact fees. So if they pay $200,000 for the concurrency, fees, then they're given that much credit against their impact fees. Right. So actually, the county's not making money on concurrencies at all because they're given that credit on their impact fees. So I didn't know if you all were aware of that.
Yeah, there's millions.
Yes. They have the county administration also work out deals with that big park or business park that they just announced coming in off Racetrack Road.
The big one.
The big one that's going to be like a town center.
Bass Pro Shops, you mean?
Absolutely. Will not pay any ad valorem taxes or business taxes for years and years and years and years and years to come.
But you can't fix those problems. Those agreements are
already made, right? But those are things that, as a new commissioner, whether it be myself or be Henry, that need to be looked at because for future references. Yes. Because ad valorem dollars add money to the rolls, that add income to the budgets.
And Dottie and I have concurrency on that issue.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say you both agree that it's not the county's responsibility to maximize profits for development?
Oh, absolutely, I would agree with that.
Do you agree that it's happening?
I think there have been a number of cases where that particular development, whether it was residential or mixed use, has probably not paid its fair share, and that cost is now being reflected in a backlog of infrastructure needs the county is having to deal with, roughly $270 million in infrastructure needs. A lot of that involves road operation and maintenance, and some of it involves surface water quality, involving meeting the TMDL regulations that are pending that have to be met.
And that brings me to my question, which is, there's a very significant revenue shortfall. How do you all see, or what do you all propose as solutions for bridging that gap? There's a limited number of options available to you. What are you in favor of and what are you against?
Dottie?
You go first on this one, since you've been,
Okay.
you've been very vocal, so you go first on this one.
Well, there is an infrastructure shortfall.
Yeah, there
and it's
is.
pending, and it's sort of the 800-pound gorilla that's probably 1, 2, or 3 years down the road. We currently do have I think, underfunded operation and maintenance plan for our county roads, and that needs to be addressed. But I will tell you, because it's a matter of record, not to make a bad pun, but as a matter of record, I sent a letter, I think it was a year ago, it might be 2 years ago. When did the county commission vote to up or down to put the penny sales tax to the voters?
12 months ago.
So it was a year ago when that discussion took place. I had no intention or idea of running for office at that time. Trust me, I just didn't. But the following day, I actually wrote a letter to the editor, and you can find it in your file, where I urged the county commission to reconsider the vote that failed, because I said I thought that it was important to give the opportunity to the voters of this county to vote that penny sales tax up or down. And I personally would have voted yes, because I think that, number one, the revenue was needed, and number two, I thought it was a fair way to incorporate some of the costs of the county, the infrastructure costs, to invite the 5 or 6 million tourists we receive each year to help pay for that infrastructure that they are using, coming and going to our beaches, our highways, our restaurants. So it's a matter of record that I would have put that before the people to vote up or down. I think I closed with the fact that that's the purest form of democracy, letting the people vote on an issue, and that I would support it. So that's probably the biggest revenue source that's available to the county. I think that sometime in the future, in the foreseeable future, if I am privileged to serve on the county commission, I envision having a discussion again about that issue and bringing it up for a discussion and hopefully a vote, which will either send it to the voters or not. My position is the voters should have an opportunity to vote on that issue. Now, there are several other areas we might look for revenue in the short term, including possibly an increase in the gas tax. Again, that involves a lot of tourists who come through the county and into the county. I think we also ought to maybe consider an additional penny tax on the bed tax as another source. I think the real issue that people seem to discuss with me the most, both pro and con, is whether or not we should have the 1 cent sales tax increase, the 1 cent sales tax increase to bring in. I think it's interesting, the half cent that the school board voted on and the people approved actually brought in substantially more than the original estimate. I think that they anticipated, 14 million, and it actually produced 17 million. That's the projection it's on, and I think that will greatly benefit our school system, and I would like to see that also for the general county budget operations.
Dottie?
I know all of you heard about the BCC meeting workshop that happened last week and all the things that transpired at the meeting.
This was when
July the 26th, when Jeb spoke
Commissioner Smith said there was no trust
in the board. They brought up all those issues again. I agree with Henry. My big issue was the TDC bed tax. I thought they were going to bring that up and that it was going to pass through that board, because I had already met with Michael Wanchek about it. And I met with Susan Clonch about some other things, about the concurrency and about, some other things that were going on in the county. And so I thought the bed tax would come through right then at that meeting. They would vote because they were doing budget, and I thought all that was going to take place then, which would help for this next budget year. And they voted it down again, which I don't understand, because there's extra money in that budget right now that they could have taken and earmarked for some things that could have been utilized in the budget. I agree that they need to raise the bed tax. I think it will be a half cent. I don't think it'll be a penny, but I think a half-cent sales tax should be put on the referendum so that the people can speak. If the people want to raise the sales tax, they should be given that opportunity to vote on it. If they don't want it, it'll be finished, and then somehow they're going to have to come up with the money because infrastructure has to be done. You and I and Henry drive these streets. We see what's happening here. With 100,000 homes that have already been approved, and you add at least two cars to each one of those homes, our road's going to be gridlocked. So we have to do something to come up. That or either ad valorem taxes are going to go up so people can make a choice. Take advantage of the tourism coming in, and we've advertised ourselves to the point that we can't drive on our own streets anymore. My one thing that I get out there all the time is that the citizens of St. Johns County can't even attend the events anymore because the tourists are here and they won't even go downtown anymore because it's so crowded with tourism. They can't even enjoy the city they live in anymore. So we have to do something. We have to do something for the citizens that live here. You know, we need to stop advertising so much and make this a place that our citizens that live here can enjoy again.
Back to the 1 cent sales tax. A lot of the feedback we get on that initiative is that it gives a pass to people in the rapidly growing parts of the counties, specifically the Northwest. The argument being that they work and shop in Duval County and therefore avoid paying sales tax in St. Johns County. Maybe not intentionally, but
well, when that big new shopping center comes in off of Racetrack Road that we're not going to get any ad valorem taxes on, we'll get the sales tax off of it. And if we raise the sales tax, then that's more sales tax for us. I mean, that's one way to look at it. You know, and I understand what you're saying.
Do you understand that the argument being that it pushes too much on existing parts of the county?
Well, every county around us is a higher sales tax than St. Johns County. I mean, they go to Duval to the town center and they pay 7%. They go to anywhere else. Palm, a lot of residents live in Palm Coast or Flagler County. They pay 7%. We're 6%. So actually, if they want to keep the services and they want library hours and they want police and they want fire, then 1 penny, half a cent, you know, raise it 0.5%, whatever. The money has to come from somewhere to keep the services and the quality of life we have. We have to do something, but they'll have a chance to vote on it. The county commissioners wouldn't do that. They have a chance to speak. It gives them a chance to speak what they want, and then it'll be there one way or the other.
And let me add, you can see how much Dottie and I agree on everything, but let me add that I sort of misspoke. I agree with Dottie that when I wrote the letter last year to the Record, I was saying the 1 cent sales tax would be 0.5 cent for the school board and 0.5 cent for general county government.
I know
So
what you meant.
if we have the discussion going forward, either Dottie or I serving on the commission, I would be recommending a 0.5 cent sales tax referendum, not a full cent. But that's because it was split between the school board and the county. And let me say, to me, the issue is bigger than just the northwest quadrant of the county, and I fully understand that a lot of families have moved to the northwest area of the county and they actually commute to Jacksonville to work, but they choose to live in St. Johns County primarily, I think, because of the school system and also our amenities, the beautiful county that we are. But the big issue to me is that estimates that I've seen say that roughly 40% of the 0.5 cent sales tax will come in from tourists. 40%. That's the big issue to me. Why should homeowners living on a fixed income, retirees, young people starting out in the job market, renters that are having trouble paying $500 or $600 a month rent, why should the burden fall on us, the homeowners and small business and renters entirely, when 40% of the revenue raised from the 0.5 cent sales tax would come from the tourist trade? So that's the big issue for me and why I came down on the issue the way I did.
Okay.
Let me ask you, this is more of a general thing. These are just quick questions. Do you all believe that the county commission races ought to be partisan? Is there a Republican county commissioner and a Democrat county commissioner?
going to go, Dottie or me? I have a position. I have a position on that. I would be happy either way. I think county commissioners really represent local issues that are more geared to the local issues such as growth management, infrastructure, traffic, public safety, that really to me are American issues. In other words, nonpartisan. I'd be very comfortable with nonpartisan races, but I, on the other hand, being a longtime Republican, and I support strong Republican conservative values, I'm perfectly happy to serve as a Republican because that's the party that I'm affiliated with and I have been for years. I really would have been perfectly happy had no one filed a write-in qualification and we had an open primary. And I would welcome all the voters in this county to have an opportunity to vote in the county commission races. But someone did file, and current Florida law allows that, and so we have a closed primary, but I would have been just as happy with an open primary.
I'm a Republican, have been since I was 18 years old, and I believe in their values. I mimic what he said as far as I would have been just as happy for all people to have been able to vote. I can't control what they did, but I would have been happy to have any and all vote for me. But like I say, I have been a Republican since I was 18, and that was a long time ago.
Here's another one that kind of goes back. It's a philosophical thing too. There's a lot of, I've been talking with several candidates, especially some county commissioners, that say how difficult it is to run a race countywide, and the school board still is an intra-district vote.
Right.
If you're in District 5, people get to know you, they know who you are.
It's grueling.
And this is something that comes up, and I don't know whether it could get passed by county commission, but there's a lot of people who think that running within your district would be a better thing because the district gets to know you better, you get to know the district better. Would either one of you consider that type of change? Or
It would be a lot easier to run in your district. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, because...
And I'm sorry, but it also forces people to raise a lot more money. The money that they may not, to run a countywide race as opposed to district.
Let me say this. I'm self-funded in my campaign. You can look, I'm sure you've gone onto the actual websites and looked. Self-funded because of my issues. I'm for controlled growth, and I haven't actually gone out and solicited a lot of funds. The people that have funded me are friends and families and just people that I know have given me money. And I've knocked on doors, but I've knocked on doors in Chillington Creek, and I've knocked on doors in Ponte Vedra that I could get to. I've knocked on doors, and I say that, yes. I've stood at the libraries, I've stood, at different places, and it would be a lot easier if we just did it in our areas that, were in District 5. It's a lot less territory to cover. So, and it's hard to explain to people when you're talking to them that it's countywide, even though they say, which district? Am I in your district? No, ma'am, you're not in my district, but it's countywide. You can vote for me. It's hard to explain that to a lot of people because they don't understand that. But that's really an interesting question. It would be a lot less grueling for us.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I'm sorry, I don't want to...
Go ahead. On
the other hand, there are some interesting issues that crop up with single-member districts, and one of those, and I've seen this all over the state. I've happened to have worked in 19 counties that include the St. Johns River Water Management District.
But we're countywide. We handle issues for the whole county. Yeah, that's...
Right. And also South Florida. So yeah. I've actually worked with 35 counties in this state in my 21-year career as water management director in the 2 districts. And one thing I've noticed, when you have single-member districts, you can start having major food fights as to, well, I want this project for my district versus, and then it becomes almost a trade show where you start trading in traffic, and I'll give you that stormwater project for your district if you give me this for my district.
Right.
So there are inherent issues in both systems. I tend to favor the system that we have here in St. Johns County, because I think as a county commissioner, I should have as much concern for Hastings as I have for Ponte Vedra. I should have as much concern for Matanzas Inlet as I have for Jewelton Creek.
Yeah.
As a county commissioner representing all the residents of the county. And I think Dottie and I share that same sense of wanting to make sure that we protect the interests of our residents. And that's what it's all about. And
I've already seen some of that a little bit. Because I go to all the county commissioners meetings and I sit back in the back and I listen, and I've already seen a little bit of that where they're territorial about, this is my district and I want this to happen, or this is better for me because I am I won't say who, but
You almost said potato farmer, didn't you?
I did not. But this is better for my district over here. This ordinance will be better for this. And I'm thinking, but you're supposed to be the interest of everybody in St. Johns County, not just because it's in this district. You know, you're supposed to be representing St. Johns County totally, not just this little district.
Okay.
You know?
ditto.
Okay.
Do you think that actually doesn't happen? That they're not swapping between districts? I mean, that's okay.
Oh, well, we don't know what happens.
Okay, we done.
We don't know what
So
happens.
you all told us before we started recording that you agree on 95% of the issues. I believe that was your words, Henry.
I think so.
I think
What
so.
do you disagree on? What?
Well, I also added a footnote that we may agree on everything, and Dottie and I have been meeting in front of civic associations and other groups for 5 months. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I got to tell you that I can't remember an instance where we have disagreed on any major issue.
I told him I hope that we can be friends after this is all over with. You know, I started my campaign in November. He started in March. I resigned from my position at the property appraiser's office in November, where I was a director there. I balanced a $1 billion tax roll. I sent out all the estimates to all the taxing authorities, including the St. John's, or the water management, for them to estimate their budgets on. I worked for Sharon Outland, and she tried to stop me. She didn't want me to resign from the office because I wore a lot of hats in that office. And I said, no, I want to do this. This is something I really, really want to do because I think I can make a difference in St. Johns County. And, you know, I'm not a politician. I don't, you know, sometimes I can't get the right words out and say the right things like a politician does, but my heart's there. I fight for what I believe in, and I fight to the finish. There's been times that I've sat and cried because I thought, I'm not doing the right thing because I'm not getting the right word out. But I fight to the end, and I will fight till it's finished. But when it's over with, Henry and I will shake hands, and whoever wins will wish the other the best of luck, hopefully.
And I think support
Each other, absolutely. And I told him, I'm not finished. So whoever wins, if he wins, I'll still be around harassing him. And vice versa, right? Right. So, you know, it'll keep going. So.
Since we're talking about assessors, it occurs to me that the county, it occurred to me the other day that the county keeps talking about the pickle that they're in with the backlog and everything. We keep going back to the legislature cutting assessments and making the homestead exemption and doubling it again and again. And I'm wondering if at this point we keep blaming something that happened 5 years ago or even longer than that. And it's not going to really.
We're going up.
Well, yeah, the assessments are, but what the legislature's done to school money, that they're still using it to, but doubling exemptions, making it no matter how it goes up. But is it time that we just quit saying that's the reason? I mean, we know what the reason is, but perhaps I'm making it clear. But we keep going back 5 years. If this hadn't happened, we wouldn't be in this pickle. But it did happen, and it happened 5 years ago. It's not going to change. The legislature's not going to return the money. So again, it's a matter of trying to find some different, not a solution rather than.
We have to find a solution, absolutely.
Than something to blame.
I completely agree with Dottie. I mean, it is what it is, and we have to deal with it. I don't see, frankly, I would not I would not anticipate any of those exemptions being repealed
No.
by the legislature.
They're not going to
And so
take
I
those
think
away from
I think we have to deal with the hand that's dealt us,
citizens.
and I think that is why we discussed for a few minutes earlier the what revenue options are there that are realistic and fair to the citizens to meet the backlog that has built up because of too many rooftops that got permitted without adequate concurrency and adequate funding by the developer, and then the deep recession that started in '08, as all of you know. But the property, and she's the expert on this, the property taxes sort of lagged behind because they had to do the appraisals of the assessments, and so starting in 9, 10, 11, the county revenues fell, what, 25 or 30%, Dottie?
We were up about, and I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but we were up about 20%, something like that, and then the bottom dropped out, and then we started going down, 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 and now we're up about 8.9%, 9%. So they hit bottom, went way down, and now we're up about 9%.
But I think in '09 or 2010, probably the ad valorem tax revenues had dropped from their highest level in '07 or '08. They dropped at least 30%. And as all of you know, the county administration, and I have to tip my hat to the then county commissioners, some are still with us, and the county administrators, I thought did an excellent job in managing that budget. They made tough decisions. They had to eliminate 250 positions.
Yes.
They did build up reserves to the point.
And the county staff. I mean, the county staff took a week furlough, so they could keep their jobs. So,
but at the end of the day, they ended up getting their bond rating increased 2 levels, and I think we're able to provide the core mission services that was expected of the county. Very, very little cuts in core services, and so I tip my hat to those that struggled with the declining revenue that we faced with the deep recession and with the exemptions that were passed roughly at the same time in '07, '08, '09. I was actually a consultant to St. Johns County at the time that we were dealing with the water quality issues in the St. Johns River and the total maximum daily loading, TMDLs we call it, and how do we fund these when the legislature is capping or exempting more and more ad valorem taxes. But it is what it is, and that's why we have to look elsewhere for additional revenue rather than see any type of repeal of those exemptions.
Do you agree?
No.
What I was going to ask you, what didn't we ask you that you'd like to talk about quickly? I mean, is there something that's important to you that we didn't get to?
I think we've covered just about everything. I mean, I think I covered it. I worked for 28 years for the citizens of St. Johns County. I worked as a director in the property appraiser's office. Covered many areas in there. I managed the annexes for the property appraiser's office. I balanced the tax roll. I worked with the offices in Tallahassee. I worked for tangible person. I managed the tangible personal property role there, which is the business role, and did many things for Mrs. Allen there in that office. And I'm running for this office because I believe that there needs to be a change, and I believe that citizens needs a voice, and I want to be that voice for them.
Well, when the governor asked me to transfer to the South Florida Water Management District, I was the executive director of a regional agency covering Orlando to Miami with an annual budget of $1 billion and 2,000 employees. And I was involved, along with my staff, in putting together a plan to jumpstart the Everglades restoration. You can read about it, probably some old files, but the point is that when I came back to St. Johns County in '05, and what I have seen happening to this county with the risk of possibly impacting or even destroying some of our beautiful natural resources, that I really feel that it's my personal responsibility to step up to the plate and try to make sure that as we go forward we protect these resources, and we do it in a fiscally responsible way, but we are good stewards. I can tell you, and this will be my last point, that right now as we sit here today, because of mismanagement in South Florida over the last 10 years. If you go down to Stewart or Port St. Lucie or Sewell's Point along the Treasure Coast, they don't have the beautiful estuary that they used to have. They have a toxic green algae that's the consistency of guacamole sauce. And it has a very, very bad stench. And my position is that we have one of only 2 remaining very pristine estuaries in the entire state, one being the Guano Tolomata Matanzas River estuary, and the other being Tampa Bay. The other estuaries, the Indian River Lagoon and the Caloosahatchee area down around Sanibel Captiva, have right now, as we sit here, have been destroyed. It's going to take years for them to come back. It's going to have a major economic impact on tourism, sport fishing, real estate, and I will fight until the last dog is dead to protect our estuaries, our rivers, and our wetlands, recognizing we're going to have to deal with growth. But I have tried to, and I think Dottie has done a good job too, explain how we need to make growth pay for itself and have concurrency at the local level. And that's why I decided to run.
That's great. And you got anything else you
I
want?
do not. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you. I enjoyed
You're
it.
welcome. Very welcome.